You did not buy a new truck this year. Good, because while your neighbor is 84 months deep into a payment on something that texts his dealer every time the oil pressure drops, you are out here trying to keep a real machine alive, and the transmission sitting behind your engine right now, that single component, is either going to carry you for another 300,000 miles, or it is going to be the reason you are standing on the side of a highway at 11 p.m. wondering why you trusted a dipstick and a prayer. Here is the thing about transmissions. Everybody talks about engines. The 5.9 Cummins, the 7.3 Power Stroke, the old 350 small block. Those engines get the glory, the forums, the rebuild kits, the YouTube channels. But the transmission is the engine's business partner. It is the one actually doing the dirty work every single time you pull a load, climb a grade, or drop into 4 low on a muddy 2-track. Kill the transmission, and it does not matter how healthy that engine is. You are not going anywhere. I have seen guys pour $12,000 into a pristine engine rebuild and then watch the whole truck become a yard ornament 3 months later because they ignored what was happening in the tail shaft housing. That is a painful and expensive lesson that you do not have to learn yourself. Today we are talking about the 5 trucks that came from the factory with transmissions so over-engineered, so mechanically overbuilt for their rated load, that they have earned a reputation that no marketing department could ever manufacture. These are not rankings based on magazine reviews or brand loyalty. These are units that the independent transmission shops, the guys rebuilding boxes day in and day out with no incentive to lie to you, consistently point to as the ones that come in least often and leave strongest. Number 1. The 1994 to 2002 Dodge Ram with the 47RE behind the 5.9 Cummins. Let me be honest about something right away, because this transmission gets a complicated reputation online, and most of that reputation is earned by people who abuse them and then blame the gearbox. The 47RE is a 4-speed automatic built on the TorqueFlite lineage, a platform that Chrysler had been refining since the late 1950s. That is not a typo. The fundamental architecture underneath the 47RE traces back to one of the most proven automatic transmission designs in American automotive history. The weak points that people complain about, the governor pressure solenoid, the overdrive clutch pack, those are real. But here is what gets left out of that conversation. Those failure points are almost entirely the result of owners who never serviced the fluid, ran at hot pulling loads it was not calibrated for, or bought a truck that a previous owner had already cooked twice before selling it. A 47RE that has been properly serviced every 30,000 miles has never seen sustained overheating and has a functioning transmission temperature gauge. That unit will shift cleanly past 400,000 miles. I have personally seen 2 of them do exactly that. One in a work truck that had never been off pavement, and one in a ranch rig that had seen more field hours than most pieces of farm equipment. The reason this transmission earns the top of this list is the rebuild economics. When a 47RE does eventually need work, every major internal component is available, affordable, and well documented. A competent transmission shop can rebuild one completely for a fraction of what a replacement unit costs on anything built after 2010.
Number 2. The 1999 to 2007 Ford F-250 and F-350 with the 4R100. Ford built the 4R100 as the direct successor to the E4OD, and they built it to handle the torque output of the 7.3 Power-stroke diesel, which means they built it with a significant safety margin on top of what the factory engine was producing. That engineering buffer is exactly why this transmission became legendary. The 4R100 is a wide-ratio 4-speed automatic with a torque converter lockup clutch that, when it is working correctly, reduces heat generation on long highway pulls better than most of the 5- and 6-speed units that replaced it. Heat is the primary killer of automatic transmissions. Not mileage, not load, heat. And a transmission that was engineered from the ground up to manage thermal load on a 250 and 350 platform is going to outlast anything that was engineered to a tighter cost margin. The one thing I will tell you right now, and this is not a caveat, this is a maintenance requirement, the 4R100 needs an external transmission cooler if you are doing any serious towing. The factory cooler integrated into the radiator end tank is adequate for light use. It is not adequate for 80% of what Super Duty owners actually use these trucks for. Add the external cooler, change the fluid on schedule, and this transmission will very likely never need to be opened. Number 3. The 1988 to 1998 GM full-size trucks with the 4L80E. General Motors released the 4L80E in 1991 as their heavy-duty automatic transmission option for the K-Series and C-Series trucks, and they based it directly on the TH400, a transmission that had been used behind everything from passenger cars to military vehicles since 1964. When GM added electronic controls to that platform and called it the 4L80E, they did not redesign the fundamental mechanicals. They kept the oversized planetary gear sets, the robust clutch pack sizing, and the cast iron case that the TH400 had made famous. The result is a transmission that is dramatically overbuilt for what most truck owners ask of it in daily use. The 4L80E was rated at 440 foot-pounds of input torque from the factory. The 5.7-liter V8 that most of these trucks came with produces around 300 foot-pounds at peak. You are running a transmission that has nearly 50% more capacity than the engine behind it can use. That kind of engineering margin does not happen by accident, and it does not come free. GM put real material and real cost into that gearbox, and it shows in the longevity numbers. The electronic side of the 4L80E is simple enough that most experienced shade tree mechanics can diagnose it with a basic code reader and a factory service manual. No proprietary software, no dealer-only diagnostic tools. That matters more than people realize when you are talking about keeping a truck on the road 30 years from now. Number 4. The 1986 to 1995 Toyota pickup and 4Runner with the W56 5-speed manual. I want to be precise here because Toyota used several different manual transmission options across these generations, and the W56 specifically is the one worth talking about. It is a 5-speed unit that Toyota sourced to back the 22RE 4-cylinder in the trucks that were doing real commercial and agricultural work across Southeast Asia, Australia, and the American West simultaneously. The W56 is not impressive because it is complex. It is impressive because it is not. The gear ratios are well spaced for both highway cruising and low-speed work. The synchro rings are robust. The shift forks are machined to tolerances that most domestic manufacturers were not matching in that era. And the input shaft bearing, the component that fails first in most manual transmissions under hard use, is sized generously relative to the torque load the 22RE puts through it. Here's what the transmission shops will tell you about the W56. They barely see them. A 22RE with 280,000 miles on it is a known quantity in this industry. Everybody knows those engines run forever. What gets discussed less is that the transmission attached to most of those high-mileage examples is still on the original synchros with nothing more than a few fluid changes. That is not luck. That is Japanese manufacturing discipline applied to a working truck component. If there is a knock on the W56, it is parts availability now that we are 30 to 40 years out from production. The synchro rings for the upper gears are becoming legitimately difficult to source in OEM specification. If you own one of these trucks, find a new old stock set right now and put it in a labeled bag on a shelf. Do not wait.
Number 5. The 2001 to 2010 GM Duramax trucks with the Allison 1000. The Allison 1000 is the only transmission on this list that is not a product of an automaker's in-house engineering team, and that is exactly why it belongs here. Allison Transmission has been building commercial and military-grade automatic transmissions since 1915. When GM needed a transmission to back the LB7 Duramax at launch, they did not design one internally. They went to Allison and put their commercial product into a pickup truck. The Allison 1000 is a 5-speed, later 6-speed, automatic with a torque converter designed around commercial duty cycles, not the optimistic assumptions of a passenger vehicle warranty program. The case is cast iron. The clutch pack clearances are set tighter than comparable units because Allison builds for service intervals measured in hundreds of thousands of miles, not the 100,000-mile window that most OEM transmissions are engineered around. What I find interesting, and this is something a lot of people miss, is that the Allison 1000 in these trucks was actually slightly detuned from its full commercial specification to interface with GM's electronic control systems, which means even the version sitting in your 2004 LB7 Duramax is operating below its rated mechanical ceiling in normal use. The one maintenance item I will not let you leave without hearing. The Allison 1000 has a spin-on external filter on the side of the case that most owners never touch because it looks like it might be something else. Change it every 30,000 miles with the fluid. Ignore it and you will build contamination in the valve body that no fluid flush will fix. That single maintenance item is responsible for more Allison failures than any mechanical flaw in the transmission itself. These 5 transmissions are not perfect. Every one of them has a known weakness, a service interval you have to respect, or a specific failure mode that will catch you if you ignore the signs. But that is true of every mechanical system ever built. The difference between these units and what is being bolted into trucks rolling off the line today is that these ones were built to be serviced, rebuilt, and kept alive by a person with tools and knowledge, not a dealer with a proprietary scan tool and a parts ordering monopoly. The Shift Forever list is not about nostalgia. It is about the economic and mechanical reality that a well-maintained gearbox from 1996 will cost you less to own over the next 20 years than anything wrapped in a warranty that expires before the loan does. What transmission are you running right now? And how many miles are on it? Drop it in the comments. Make, model, year, mileage, and what you have done to it. I want to see what this community is actually keeping alive out there. If you are the kind of person who would rather rebuild something than replace it, hit subscribe. We're going to keep this conversation going.